Omar, how you doing?
Hey, doing good.
Good. How was your weekend?
It was great. We bought another Model 3 for my friend. This time the rear wheel drive, so we now have one of each. And just generally a good weekend.
That's awesome, man. You helped a lot of people buy Teslas.
Oh yeah, they got crazy deals right now. So people, when they need to buy a Tesla, they say, "Hey, can you help me find a good one?" Right now, they've got all these deals in inventory. So if you can find a car that's in inventory near you, they'll give you 3 free months of FSD and 3 months of free supercharging. So, I was helping him out, look through inventory. My friend came over Friday night, and she's was like, "We're not buying this car right now. We gotta sell my old one first." But I was like, "Well, let's just look in inventory." Before you knew it, we ordered. We'd gone through all the steps. We got the EV tax credit, applied the $5,000 referral bonus, and then we took delivery on Sunday. It was that easy. It was kind of just a crazy simple experience.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Um, how many referral credits did you get, man? How many Teslas have you sold so far over the years?
Probably, I mean, in person, people I know probably maybe on the order of 50 to 100. If you count it online, then who knows? It could be a really crazy number.
Yeah, you're like half this deliveries every quarter coming from Omar. They should give you. You
Yeah.
should get an equity stake in the company.
Well, I do have an equity stake in the company actually,
Yeah, we
but
should get you on a. We should get you on a stock-based compensation plan.
well, they've got tall guidance for the quarter, so if we want to get above 500,000, we got to get to work.
Yeah, seriously. Hey, Luce, people are asking me what's going on with your short position. I mean, you're
Hey, what's
sorry.
up?
Hold on, let me clarify. I only had 2 cups of coffee today. So you sold your entire Tesla position. Are you still in cash? What are you doing with that money, or are you buying back into it?
So yeah, man. So I have a lot of cash, and if Tesla goes up to like 400, I would not mind buying like 20 or 30 thousand dollars of puts, honestly. But beside that, I want to greet every bull who bought the top today. Hello, everybody.
Luce, my advice to you is don't react to the people who tease you in their replies. Don't make it like most people are on the same page of as my pinned post. Tesla Live welcomes both bulls and bears, and some of the bulls actually make the best bears in arguments. And you took a bold position by selling all of your shares. And you said, I think just now, that if it continues upward, that you wouldn't mind buying put options on the stock. That's interesting. And well, I wish you good luck either way. Omar, what do you think about Luce's? He's threatening shorting the stock here.
Look, I think people have just been incredibly short-sighted. It'll go up a little, it'll go down a little. You got an announcement here, you got an announcement there. Trump's going to take away the tax credit. Oh, but they're actually going to legalize autonomous driving. Oh, that's kind of material. So there will be puts and takes, but you can't get too caught up in the noise. You have to really think, okay, let's say the company accomplishes 10% of what they want to accomplish, right? They want to make all cars autonomous and electric. They've got this plan for robotics that I think is really, a multi-trillion dollar market waiting to be realized. And they're the company I think that's best going to realize it. So this company could be worth 5 times what it's worth today. It could be worth 30 times what it's worth today. If it goes up a little or goes down a little, a few percentage points, you have to be able to kind of separate yourself from that. And so many people make the mistake of just selling before they can realize all their gains after a long period of holding.
All right, Luce, let's kind of dig into your plan here. So, at what level did you say you would buy put options, and how did you reach that level?
So yeah, man. So I first of all would like to see like a stable price. I don't want volatility. I would like to buy put options with very low premium. Okay, and if this happens at like an even higher price, then it's extremely welcome. In fact, I made such a profit selling that I really don't mind like buying some puts just to test my theory. Honestly, $20,000-$30,000 is not life changing, and I think honestly the chances will be in my favor. In my favor, considering a low premium, I would say even right now with a low premium will be fine, but the volatility is extremely high. But let's say it goes to 400 with also if it has a high premium, is such an high price that I will still buy them.
Okay. Omar, recently Tesla reduced the lease price for the Model Y pretty substantially. Now it's a great deal. Same price as the Model 3 long range. Um, do you think this is bullish or bearish?
Well, you know, it is just business. I'd say it's more on the bearish side, but they're really just trying to get rid of these things, right? They've got production of a new one that, by some rumors, has already started in trial production. They want to get rid of these, and frankly, the new Model 3s are amazing. They've got all these new features. So it makes sense that right now the starting price is the same. They probably want to clear out all the inventory they have globally of this thing before the new one starts production. Because once the new one starts production, the price will probably be even lower than what they can get today.
Lucia, what do you think about this recent lease price decrease?
I think that I don't think at this point the stockholder really care. I think they are buying a startup of Robotaxi and Optimus for 1 trillion, because if you like put in a model the removal of the tax credit or like a decrease in profit on the auto margin or whatever, you can like you can see very fast that the auto business is not in great shape.
Omar, how do you respond to the claim that Tesla auto business is not in great shape?
I think that there's some signs that the automotive business has turned the tide on the sort of margin contraction we've been seeing over the past couple of years, and that Tesla is going to enter into a phase of margin expansion. So, one is just new product introductions. The Cybertruck becoming profitable is material because the Cybertruck's an expensive high-end vehicle. It's bigger. There's more value in the market for it. If you can make it profitably, that's actually accretive to your margins rather than making your margins look smaller because you're losing money on that product. Then you've got the new Model Y. You've got these new, more affordable models they're talking about, some other models they're working on. They're talking about a bigger Tesla vehicle. So there's some really interesting things they're working on. In the short term, as you have to sell some of these Model Ys and liquidate the inventory, you're probably going to make a little less than you made when they were new. But I mean, this has been something that's been continuing for a while. They've had to offer, greater and greater incentives to move these as people realize that an updated version is coming, as they see the new Model 3. But then once you have that updated version, we saw with the Model 3, their pricing power increased quite a bit compared to the old Model 3. You saw a lot of demand from people who wanted to upgrade from the old Model 3 to the new Model 3. And I think that is going to make for a good 2025 and 2026 as they scale this around the world. Combine that with FSD, combine that with some of these regulatory changes that are being made. For example, the EV tax credit being removed, which reduces COGS, removes price caps. Talk about tariffs and sort of policies that would give preference to American-made vehicles. So if you're taxing non-American-made vehicles, then you essentially have more pricing power as a domestic manufacturer. So it's still a volatile and evolving situation, but we are seeing signs that they've turned the corner and that margins are going to start expanding. We've now seen 3 consecutive quarters of margin expansion at the company, and I think that's going to continue.
All right, Luce, we also have a response for you in YouTube live chat from Truth to a T. He's a great supporter of the space who says, it's not just Tesla, it's the auto industry is not in great shape. Tesla may be better positioned than many just because of the margin. So Tesla, Luce, do you agree that Tesla, relative to the legacy automakers, are better positioned for the future?
It depends. If they remove the tax credit, then no.
I don't think it's a question of if anymore. The EV tax credit is going away, and
then no.
Really. So
90% going away. 90%.
All right, everybody, take a moment. Pause. Take a deep breath. Luce, you're telling me that Tesla's competitive position depends on the $7,500 EV credit for the next 5-10 years versus Ford and GM?
So let me put it this way. So you analyzed the James Descartes model, right? And you say to me that if I wanted to be taken serious, then I need to bring some data, or at least have that opinions based on that. All right. So to give you an example, the average cost to produce a Model 3 is around $33,500. Okay. If you look at James Descartes model, it says that the ASP price for a Model 3, it's around 41,350. Remove to that 700, 500, you basically have a car that has basically very little profit. All right. But then you can add the new models that are going to be released. And so let's say that now the new Model 3 will have, I don't know, $3,000 in margin. All right. So in 1 year, basically, the margins on the Model 3 more than halved. Okay. And that's also releasing all the new models. So basically shooting all the bullets. And so what are we even talking about? It's a car company, it's an AI company. What are we talking about? What is this valuation based on?
Okay. Now, Luce mentioned the video that we did analyzing James Catt's 2025 forecast. The link to this video is at the top of your screens. A coffee bet also came out of this video after much debate. So highly recommend watching this video in full. But Luce, this is for 2025, right? The purpose of the space is for long-term investors. Don't you think Tesla is better positioned than Ford, GM, and other automakers just based on its efforts around AI, FSD, let alone robotaxis, just FSD as ADAS, or even Optimus? Ford, GM, etc. will never catch up to that, right? Toyota will never be able to make an EV that is as efficient, as popular, as profitable as Tesla, regardless of the $7,500 credit in one geography, right? Go ahead.
So there is going to be such a pullback on the electric vehicle side that it's not a matter anymore that who is better positioned for EV vehicles. It's matter okay, legacy automaker will keep producing their ICE vehicle, nice. Tesla will halve their margin on vehicles, okay. Like who wins? All I see is that legacy automakers keep going as they are going now right now, and Tesla lose half the profit from the auto sector. So, like, who is better positioned? Also, I would believe, at least I hope, that in 5-6 years and going forward, at least we have a robotaxi working somewhere. So it's not even matter anymore of the auto business, I hope.
All right. Before I go to Omar for a response to that, and then we're going to dig into the news from Bloomberg that Trump administration is going to come up with a federal litigation around robotaxis. So those are the things that are coming up. Before that, I'm letting you know that there's a poll on YouTube right now. Will Luce buy his Tesla shares at higher or lower prices? Okay, so head over to YouTube channel, vote on that poll, and hit the like button while I read the audio ads for our sponsors. Tesla Live is proudly sponsored by Paymore, your trusted destination for buying, selling, trading, and recycling electronics. At Paymore, you can buy the latest gadgets at great prices, sell or trade your used electronics for cash or store credit, or recycle old and broken devices responsibly, helping reduce electronic waste. Paymore believes that the best technology does not have to come at the cost of our planet or your wallet. And Tesla Live is sponsored by Joa, your go-to source for premium Tesla accessories. At Joa, you'll find innovative charging solutions, stylish interior upgrades, protective gear, and cutting-edge tech add-ons for Tesla owners who demand the best. Use promo code TSLA Live at checkout to receive a special discount on your next purchase. All right. Omar, what's your response to Luce?
Frankly, you can't ignore the energy business these days. If you're just talking about short term, you have to be looking at megapacks and you have to be looking at power walls, both of which are at record levels, both at which are at a higher margin profile than the overall business. And we have a megapack factory in Shanghai that's looks like it's almost complete and ready to start pumping out units. So the growth we've seen in the energy sector, I think, we could see more than double that volume once this thing is at scale. And I think the margin profile on this is going to be even better. So you're likely going to see energy margins continue to expand. So, when people kind of make these statements like, what is this? There's no fundamentals there. You can't ignore something like that, right? It is really becoming a material part of the business. And Shanghai will have even better economics than California, even better scale than California. The world's battery supply chain is there. And the world needs a lot of megapacks. They need a lot of power walls, right? You're seeing kind of like grid instability. People love having power walls. You notice the XAI data center. The guys at XAI, one of the employees, he tweeted, "I love megapacks." It just makes their life simpler when you're running a big data center, right? Imagine having a training run like that and the power goes off, right? And you lose your entire training run. What a pain in the ass that is. That, is not going to fly. So they're all going to need megapacks. Everybody, as we transition to autonomous electric vehicles, as we build out these charging stations have a ton of megapacks. So that really can't be ignored if you're just looking short term. Then on the auto business, I think they have a pretty good plan here for margin expansion. I mean, between FSD, between new products like the Model Y, between new entry level models that they say are going to be produced on the 3 and Y line next year, they've got a plan both here, I think, to expand volume above 3 million units on the automotive side, as well as expanding margin globally. Longer term, we have things like, unsupervised FSD. So I think really that is what the market is seeing here. A lot of people want to say, is this just some meme stock situation? But there is obviously a little bit of momentum when you have dramatic price action like this that forces shorts to close, that maybe makes people go long who wouldn't otherwise. But there really is something there. This business has turned a corner financially, and even if we saw pretty lukewarm results in the auto business, as for example, they transition their products, you are going to see the energy business, I think, make the overall profile look very good. And then when you factor in the upside from AI, robotics, Optimus, um, $1 trillion valuation starts to look pretty conservative. The
Yeah.
other companies operating in this space are valued at $2-3 trillion or more.
Yeah. Thank you, Omar. Hey, Luce, we have a few dozen votes already on the YouTube channel right now, and 73% of people believe that you're going to end up buying your Tesla shares back at higher prices, and only 27% says lower prices that you're going to profit from selling your shares and then buying back into it. Interesting. But I think you said earlier that you wouldn't buy it back at higher prices. You would just invest in other things. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely, Omar. I'm a stubborn person, so there is no way I will buy higher.
Yeah.
Whatever it happens, I think there are other options.
Okay. Well, I don't know how your
This is
stubbornness is
just a
going to help you.
series of logical fallacies, right?
Right. Right.
So first, he kind of psyched himself out and sold it. Then let's say that, let's say just hypothetically, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but let's say the stock's going to go up 30x, right? And he it's twice as high. And he says, well, I'm not going to buy it twice as high as where I sold it. But he could still get another 15x return, right? So these are kind of logical fallacies. You don't want to necessarily anchor yourself to trades you made in the past. I've had tons of trades. For example, Meta. When Meta was getting into the metaverse, I'm like, this is the dumbest business plan I've ever heard. And it did lose them a lot of money, but you know what? I sold Meta, I ended up buying higher. And guess what? It went way higher than where I bought it at.
All right. Luce, Omar said a lot of things over there, but I think I heard something like, you're dumb. What's your response?
So if I didn't have this
I'm kidding.
mentality,
Omar didn't say that. Just like sometimes I need to remind myself there's about 5% of people in my audience, in any audience really, that take everything you said literally. So I'm just being sarcastic, everybody. It's a Monday. I just had my La Colombe draft latte vanilla cold brew with oat milk, frothy and creamy. It was delicious. It's not sponsored by La Colombe, but maybe one day. Luce?
so I agree with Omar, generally speaking. But if you didn't have this mentality, how would you will not be able to sell Tesla like this, like I did to take this opportunity. Even whenever Tesla will go to 400, 450, let's say I didn't buy back, I will hold strong to my conviction as long as my conviction makes sense. As things stands right now, Tesla can go to whatever price it wants. As long as it's not at 200, 180, I will not think of buying back. And this
Yeah,
is
Luce,
my
I don't know. You're sounding very emotional. You also use the word stubborn, your word, not mine. Being emotional obviously is not great with investing. And like, what if, for example, Tesla starts producing the Optimus in a few months, and then it scales faster than you thought or anybody thought? You're telling me you're not going to buy back at 290
Yeah. So I have to explain myself better.
or 300 or 400?
So as things stand right now, my thesis is that Optimus is 6-7 years away, something like that, and FSD is at least 4 or 5. Okay, and so if this thesis changes, obviously my idea of the stock price and the valuation will change as well. But until something like that doesn't happen, I stubbornly will not buy higher than when I sold. That's for sure.
Okay. Omar?
Yeah, so in 2019, March of 2019, I sold Meta at 172. Then I bought back in 2023 at $253. So this is substantially higher than where I sold it at. Then I bought more shares at 482. more shares at 433. It's trading at 555 now. It's up 42%. So I mentioned this because, investing is such a powerful skill. If you can just build an investment profile, if you can build it up over time, you can make smart decisions. You can change your life. You can change your kids or your grandkids' lives. And anyone can actually learn how to do it. But there are certain logical fallacies that we make that sometimes prevent us from making money. In this case, I was wrong about Meta. I shouldn't have sold the shares. I ended up paying taxes, and then I ended up buying the shares at a higher price. So I had less gains than I would have overall. But it still made sense to get back in when I realized, look, their advertising business is just killer. And even though they're losing tons of money on this VR stuff, it's still just an unmatched business worldwide.
Okay. True to us, T says no more latte for you. I don't usually drink latte. It was a free sample. Luce, all right, Luce, I'm gonna have you on as one-on-one and try to dig into these things. Try to see if, like, how much deeper did you go in terms of, math. Like, for example, why didn't you short Nvidia? Why don't you short Nvidia? Why are you thinking about shorting Tesla instead? That makes not much sense to me. Tesla has been at the same price for the last 4 or 5 years. And despite the fact that the company's fundamentals are improving rapidly, Nvidia's stock has gone up by 10 times, more than 10 times, 14, 15 times in a matter of 2 years. And the durability of its fundamentals is questionable. So how did you decide to sell your shares in Tesla? How did you decide to go after Tesla as a short candidate versus Nvidia?
Yeah, it's because I know Tesla better than Nvidia. I think both companies are overpriced. I think Palantir, Tesla, Nvidia are all overpriced. I think it's a trend. It's a trend that will end at some point.
Okay, Ellie?
Yeah, Luce, do you follow the Chinese brands?
Luce, did you hear Ellie?
No, I didn't.
All right, Ellie, I'm going to move you down, bring you back up. Ellie asked, do you follow the Chinese brands?
What Chinese brand?
Do you follow Chinese automakers?
Not particularly.
Ellie, go ahead.
I mean, the only reason why I'm asking that is because I can see to Luce's point and the whole thesis about everything he says if he's focusing on the Chinese brands, as we're talking about Tesla as a car company. We all know this title: AI company, technology company, car company. I mean, whatever is going on overseas with the Chinese, it's just unbelievable. I know you guys don't like to talk about it as much as I do because I experience this market every
What are
day
you
here.
talking about? When
Wait,
did
let me
I
finish.
ever say we don't like talking about Chinese automakers?
No, let me finish. I mean, I'm not saying that you don't love or spend any time talking about it. I'm just saying you just gave the example of Ford and GM. My biggest concern, obviously, is with all the Chinese companies. They have such great cars. Now, my concern is if Tesla want to expand to 3, 4, 5 million cars in a year, they will have tough time to sell a car to the public when they have so many other options and great options. I'm talking about Xpeng, and you all know the brands. Now, why I'm asking Nucci about it is because if you're following the Chinese market and you're concerned, I get it. But if you don't, and you're just concerned because of whatever happened with GM and Ford in America, I just don't see to your point.
Lucia, any response?
Yeah, honestly, can someone recap his question or his point of view?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he said something along the lines of, if you look at this, like, why do you look at this as an automaker? Why isn't it an AI company? Actually, let me reword that question for you. What do you think about Elon's $30 trillion long-term valuation for Tesla?
So my point is very simple. Okay. So I agree that I don't care about Tesla automotive profit. I don't care about the automotive section. I agree. It's the last thing I care about. But if I don't care about that, then I'm buying a startup with Robotaxi and Optimus 5-6 years away for 1 trillion, which is mind-boggling because there are startups that are incredible and are not valuable, are not at a valuation of 1 trillion. Okay, that's yeah.
Okay, so you're saying $30 trillion is potential. It's a startup with a lot of risk, and you need to see more meat on the bone to believe it. Is that right?
Yeah. I think $1 trillion for a startup doesn't make any sense at this level.
I mean, I don't know if Tesla Automotive is worthless. Is that what you're claiming?
So if we claim that in 10 years the automotive section will be like meaningless, like 1 trillion, 2 trillion valuation against 33 trillion, whatever it is, okay? So if we say right now that the automotive section is not important, then we are buying a 1 trillion startup of Robotaxi and Optimus for now to 5-6 years to whatever valuation it is.
What about Tesla Energy? Tesla Energy has high and growing margins, high revenue growth rate. Go ahead.
So the point with Tesla Energy is that it's 100% already priced in. Like Tesla Energy is super easy. The capacity on the US factory is maxed out. Whenever the factory on China will be finished, the capacity will be maxed out probably as well. So it's very easy to predict, and these valuations are already in the stock
Let me
price.
ask you more specific questions. All right, I'm really not interested in fluff kind of stuff like it's very easy to predict and all that. That's obviously not. Give me a figure for how much you value Tesla Automotive today, how much you value Tesla Energy today, and then we'll kind of deduce what's the extra value assigned to robotaxis and Optimus. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I cannot really say for the energy business because I don't remember the data, but I think I don't know, if I have to say a market cap for that, I would say like 50 billion, something like that, 100 billions. For the automotive, I would say 200 to 300 billions.
Wow. Okay, so you actually think energy business is 1/5, 1/6 of Tesla Automotive value today, despite the fact that energy margins are higher, revenue growth is much higher, obviously. Omar, what do you think about the estimate that Luce estimates Tesla Energy is worth $50 billion, automotive is $200 billion?
I mean, frankly, it's hard to really take his analysis seriously when he calls Tesla a startup. Tesla's run like a startup, but we're talking about a company here with $100 billion in revenue. They're pursuing startup-like growth opportunities, but they're able to fund this internally. They've got a visionary leader, and they've got a track record of disrupting industries. So that's really where the multi-trillion-dollar valuation comes from. When you look at the margin profile of some of these competitors, like, for example, Xpeng, Ford, you look at even, Figure or companies like that, they have a great deal of financial stability. They don't need to go out to equity markets to make these startups a reality. They're able to fund it internally with a quite healthy business. And that's really why the valuation is where it is today.
Hey, Lucia, we have a question from YouTube live chat. Did you say Optimus is 7 years away?
I said 5 to 6.
Is that first deliveries to commercial or households?
Yeah, households.
So 2030, before household deliveries. I mean, Figure AI CEO says, as we discussed in AI Amateurs, by the way, tonight we have an AI Amateur space at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific. In AI Amateurs, we discuss non-Tesla AI and robotics news, which inform our discussions in Tesla Live. So I highly recommend people join AI Amateurs. Sometimes we also discuss Tesla news as well, like Optimus, etc., because it comes up obviously. Luce, Figure AI CEO says that households will start getting humanoids in 3 years, definitely. But you're saying 6 years. Can you reconcile between the two?
Yeah, so if you hear Elon Musk interviews, he has the hardware 5 called AI 5, and he specifically said it was made for AI applications like for Optimus as well. So I really don't believe that before hardware 5, Optimus will be commercialized, at least in households. And hardware 5
Elon,
is... Yeah,
sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
no, hardware 5 is 2 to 3 years away. So
Okay. So Elon also said in the All In podcast annual event that by 2030 he expects 1 million annualized production rate for Optimus. If I remember that wrong, please somebody correct me. But that's what I remember, 1 million. So you're saying first deliveries in 2030, but Elon's saying 1 million per year by 2030. So you're saying he's going to be late.
well, it's Elon's timeline, right? So if they started to in 2030, I would say they did a great job, generally speaking.
Okay. Omar, anything on that end?
Well, I mean, he's obviously incorrect on multiple levels. Hardware 5 is not 3 years away. Optimus does not depend on hardware 5, but it's 12 to 18 months away at this point that we see the first hardware 5 boards coming out. We've actually seen Optimus working in the factory. We've seen dozens of them in an event. I've interacted with one, I've touched one. The hardware is remarkably far along. It's working on the existing chips, right? And, if you needed more compute capacity, you could just put 2 computers in there or something, put more chips in there. So, I think he's kind of ignoring the reality that Optimus is actually in the factory doing jobs, not the most complicated jobs in the world. We're talking about putting a battery in a tray, but they have hundreds of these things manufactured. They hang them up in the closet, from the wall. These things are deployed. And within the next 12 to 18 months, I wouldn't be surprised to see other companies start using them too. An easy candidate would be SpaceX or other Elon companies. But I think that we'll see other companies like Frito-Lay, PepsiCo did with the Semi also start using Optimus too. I don't think people who weren't at the We Robot event really understand how far along this thing is.
Lucia, I'm going to go to you in a second in a response to that. But I just concluded the YouTube poll whether Luce would buy his shares at a higher or lower prices, and 72% said higher, 28% said lower. We have a new poll in YouTube live chat. When will FSD miles between critical interventions exceed 1 million? This is a challenge to my followers that I posted also at the top in a pinned tweet in the X space. A coffee bet. Okay. And it's the all you can have coffee bet. I don't usually do these often, but there are people who predicted 2026. I think it's going to be later. So 1 million miles between critical interventions for FSD. But if you think it's 2026, you can accept the coffee bet by replying to the tweet posted in the pinned tweet at the top of your screens. Okay. And there's also a related poll on YouTube. So you can vote there as well. Luce, go ahead.
So for Optimus to be useful in factories, he needs to do jobs that a human will do. Okay. In the case of the batteries, and take the batteries, put it in the box and so on, that's 100% automated by a machine. Okay. And it's just a use case, like they are trying to see, like they are training Optimus, they are learning how to train Optimus and so on. But Optimus needs to do work that a human would. Okay. And that's not been seen yet. I seen teleoperated demos, nothing like of a human complexity, dexterity, and nothing like that.
Okay. Luce, what's your answer to the? I mean, I'm guessing since you definitely wouldn't have sold your shares if you thought FSD miles between critical interventions was going to reach 1 million in a year or two. I'm guessing you're thinking later.
I think hardware 4, definitely not. It's impossible, in my opinion.
Hardware 4 is in, well, Luce, you're making some really big statements here that I can spend an entire episode of 2 hours on that statement, and you're just like throwing out there in passing. Hardware 4 is impossible? Omar, what do you think about that? 1 million miles between critical interventions with hardware 4. Is that possible or impossible?
Well, I mean, we've already taken driverless rides in hardware 4 cars.
Yeah, I should also say that this is for general across the US. Okay, so the domain is United States, all roads, not just, let's say, highway, not just San Francisco, but across the US. Okay. All right. Omar, let's switch topics, unless if there's any
Wait,
other
can I just
comments.
say
Yeah,
really quickly first,
go
we
ahead.
have seen autonomous demos of Optimus working with 4680 cells. This thing is going to provide greater and greater economic value to Tesla internally. And my understanding is it's going to play a central piece in the unbox process. Part of the savings that they're really going to realize is through modular assemblies, allowing Optimus to actually come in and work on these submodules much more easily than they could, for example, duck into a car and do wiring or something like that. So the economic value this thing provides to Tesla internally is going to increase. I think they're also going to begin within the next year or two giving it to external commercial customers as well.
Any other questions, comments on Luce's position? Luce, you're not making many friends, but just like I protect Machine from the bullets that come his way, I'm going to protect you as well, because this space welcomes both bulls and bears. And let me note that Luce is a long-term bull. He's a long-term bull. He didn't even short this stock. He just sold his holdings, thinking of a short-term bump in the ride. But most people think that you're going to end up buying your shares back at a higher price, which is a possibility, as you know. Okay. Omar, we're going to switch topics here. There is an article from New Republic that got published about Elon Musk is pissing off everyone on Trump's team. Quote, he wants to be seen as having say in everything, even if he doesn't, one person in Trump's orbit said. Elon Musk is starting to seriously annoy some Donald Trump's inner circle. Musk has been hanging around Mar-a-Lago ever since his million-dollar gamble to help Trump win the presidential election paid off last week. The billionaire technocrat seems to have no intention of taking a back seat in Trump's presidency, and is starting to piss off some in the president's ranks, according to two people familiar with the Trump's team's transition who spoke with NBC News earlier this week. He's having a bit of he's behaving as if he's a co-president and making sure everyone knows it. One of the two people told NBC, and I think, Omar, you jokingly tweeted, was it this morning or yesterday? Now that Elon became or won the election, this is how the world looks. Retweeting Elon's post. Let's continue with this article, and then we're going to take Omar's comments and Eli as well. Quote, and he's sure taking lots of credit for the president's victory, bragging about America PAC and X to anyone who will listen. He's trying to make President Trump feel indebted to him, and the president is indebted to no one. End quote, they added. The second person said that Musk had been overstepping his bounds, and that Musk has an opinion on and about everything. He wants to be seen as having say in everything, even if he doesn't, the source told NBC. Musk has been pretty busy since hitching his space age wagon to the MAGA movement. Musk met with Iran's UN ambassador on Monday reportedly hoping to broker some kind of peace negotiation on behalf of the US. Last week, Musk hopped on Trump's calls with Ukrainian president and Turkish president. Co-presidents doesn't sound too far off. The second person suggested that Musk was hurting his chances of sticking around by not keeping a low profile, as the former president hates sharing the spotlight. Earlier this week, Trump cracked a joke at Musk's expense during a meeting with Republican lawmakers, a reminder to everyone that Musk serves at his leisure, not the other way around. The second person also speculated that Musk might not be as committed to Trump's agenda as he presents. This week, Trump tapped Musk to head the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, a non-governmental body that will push substantial cuts in regulations, spending, and personnel. While Trump has suggested that Musk's role will be merely advisory, the high-level appointment has signaled that Trump's White House is open for business to anyone who helps him politically and financially. After all, Musk transformed an essential information environment into a propaganda machine with the sole purpose of having Trump reelected. Okay, I mean, this article is obviously very biased, but Omar, any thoughts on this?
Well, you know, it sounds like this source was somebody in the Trump team who's not getting enough attention because he feels like Elon's getting more attention. There's maybe some jealousy there. You can just see it in their body language. They're best friends. They love each other, right? They really do. They really genuinely like each other. And, you know, Trump's not an idiot. This guy was the most hated man in America. They were literally about to throw him in jail if they didn't shoot his head off first. Okay? That's the situation Trump was in. Now he's not in jail, he's in the White House. Okay? And the richest man in the world donated tons of money to make that happen. Not only that, he used his influence, he stuck his neck out. I mean, how can you not like someone who does that for you? Leave aside the fact that he's actually a phenomenal executor, right? He is the guy you want talking about this stuff, right? So, Elon can't be president. So he's kind of not a threat to Trump in that way, right? He can't be president. He doesn't want to be president. And the president needs the richest man in the world and the guy who runs X, the social media network that originally got Trump elected. It was his Twitter account, his ability to talk directly to people that got him elected. And so they had to take away that account, right? They had to suspend him. So I think they're going to be friends. Yeah, if you're someone else on the Trump team who wanted to set the agenda, you're probably not going to like that Elon is going to have a say, right? If Elon doesn't like what you're trying to do, it may not happen. So that may annoy some people on the Trump team. They may try and backstab him or something, go mouth off to the press. But just watch them at the UFC fight. Look at them having McDonald's together on the jet. They're getting along well. That could always change. Something could make the relationship, something could challenge the relationship. But I think Trump probably knows that this is not a guy you want on the other side of you on the political aisle. You don't want America PAC backing your opponent. Of course, he's never really going to run again. But I think he wants to govern well. And he know that Elon helped put him in the White House. And he also probably has some good ideas for governance. I think a lot of what people are really excited about with the Trump administration is just, hey, let's see what Elon Musk could do with the federal government. Maybe he could fix some things that have been just plaguing us for a long time.
Yeah. True to a T, in YouTube Live Chat says, Trump has a habit of listening to the smartest person in the room. Not so smart people don't like that. Yeah. I mean, these are anonymous sources that spoke to NBC News, two sources. And as Omar mentioned, the body language, I think, says it all between the two. The relationship is very positive so far. As Omar also pointed out, it can change. Omar, would you like to predict in 1 year? What do you think the bromance will continue, or do you think it will take a turn for the turn south? But if you remember from the first administration, Trump's first administration a few years ago, Elon was on a panel, and then after Trump made some comments about climate change, he removed himself from the panel. Do you think we're going to see a repeat of that?
It was essentially peer pressure. It was brands saying, "Oh, we're going to cancel you. Don't work with this guy." I think Elon now has a very different mindset about that type of thing. He could care less, right? He's got FU money. Um, I think their relationship is going to be strong, especially if the government is run well. If things go well, then their relationship will improve. If things go badly, then maybe there could be some finger pointing at each other. But I think they will probably pass business friendly policies, tax reform. Hopefully, Musk having a seat at the table means they'll set sensible economic policy, not enact tariffs in a way that are overly harmful to the U.S. economy and the U.S. consumer, that don't bring up inflation, that type of thing. But Elon's a smart guy, right? You see the story about the autonomous regulation coming out. That could be a major, major win. That could accelerate FSG, right? Everybody goes, "Oh, the regulatory," because we can gauge the technical. Politics is just a total black box. But if they can advance that, which I absolutely think they can with both chambers of Congress and the White House, that's material. I think Elon has a lot of other things, for example, Mars colonization, other stuff that he would really like to see the federal government do. I think he can play a big part in helping to balance the budget. So if they, if things go well, then I think the friendship will deepen further.
Okay, great. We have a couple more questions on this, and now we're going to switch topics again. Ellie, go ahead.
I just want to share my opinion that I agree with everything Omar said. This is why I took my hands off. But just to add, I think if they can stay buddies, if they can maintain this kind of relationship, business-like, I think that will show a lot of mature by Elon's like that is ready for the next chapter, like he called it a few months ago, that is willing to drop some maybe his personal thoughts, what's good, what's not good, to the sake of the company and to the sake of the future, because it's taking a big role.
Thank you, Ellie. Omar, we have a question in replies from Jimmy. Could we soon see a Truth Social X merger happening? But before you share your response, let's say a quick thank you to our sponsors. And in the meantime, please take a moment to head over to YouTube channel through the link at the top of our screens and like the video. Likes really matter. They immediately impact number of viewers, therefore impact ad revenue, and ad revenue from YouTube supports this X channel. Tesla Live on X keeps it free and open for everybody. Anybody, I don't block anyone. Anybody can request to speak, bulls, bears, and it doesn't cost anything to listen and to request to speak, share your opinions. So I think this is a great space. It serves a great purpose. If you want to support it, you can become a patron or you can become a member of the YouTube channel. But I understand not everybody can do financial support. So if you can't do that, please take a moment to head over to YouTube channel and hit the like and subscribe to the channel. Okay. Ellie, one of our sponsors asked me to ask everyone, or at least one person a day, to share their favorite Elon Musk quote. Favorite Elon Musk quote. So would you like to be that person today? What's your favorite Elon Musk quote?
It's amazing that you asked me to say it, because I was just about to say, to support everything you said a minute ago, that I just had air raids. I have missiles above my head, and I'm still in this space because that's how important this space is to me. And my quote would be in this relation: make kids, not war.
Make kids, not war. Coming from Ellie, who is in Israel right now. Very tense moments, obviously. Thank you, Ellie, for coming here. And I really appreciate. I mean, that really means a lot. It really means a lot what you said. So Thank you. Okay. All right. Let's move on. And how do you follow that? Thanks, Ellie. All right, Omar. All right, let's talk about Model Y. How about that? What do you think the price drop, leasing price drop, will impact Model Y sales in Q4? Do you think Tesla will get to 500,000 and get to their goal of year-over-year growth, 1.8 million deliveries this year? Or do you think, despite the price drop, the lease percentage or percentage of cars leased will remain at about a couple percent for Tesla, whereas for BMW, Mercedes is like 70, 80%.
Yeah, it's probably going to remain low. Tesla doesn't offer leasing in many states, actually. They don't even sell cars in many states, shockingly. So it's a little bit of a challenge leasing in some states. I think that's part of why the lease percentage is low. Other than that, buying just tends to be a better deal. But we just leased a Model 3 for my girlfriend. It's pretty amazing. $350 a month for an all-wheel drive with 12,000 miles, and it just is an incredible car for $350 a month. You can't even believe it. She was like, "God, I can't really afford this." I'm like, "Actually, it's pretty cheap." So it's a great deal for someone who needs a car and can't pay a huge monthly payment. My dad is actually going to sell his Model S and lease a Plaid. And he's like, "Okay, well, you add up all the lease payments, it would be less than what I would get from selling this car. So let me just go ahead and do that." He wants to upgrade to hardware 4. So yeah, leasing will probably be a low percentage, but if you have it in your state, honestly, it's a great deal. Check it out. You might be shocked at how affordable it actually is to get a Model 3. And they have offers right now for 0% APR too, if you buy FSD or if you get the 36-month. And they also have an offer for $0 due at signing. So, everybody's coming to me and saying, "Hey, help me get a Tesla." And these deals are just crazy, some of what they're offering. So for my girlfriend, we got an all-wheel drive for $5,000 off. So essentially, they sold the all-wheel drive for rear-wheel drive pricing. Then we applied for my friend the $5,000 referral discount. So just $5,000 off the price of the car. They got a Model 3 rear-wheel drive for $30,000, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
And sold the old Model 3 for $30,000 and basically got it for free minus taxes. So yeah, I think they are going to break 500K this quarter.
Great. Hey, Ellie, your comments meant so much that I completely lost track of the space because I actually asked Omar a question before. Do you think X will merge with Truth Social? Ellie, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
No, we can go back. I just want to comment on the Model Y.
Okay, let's go back for a second because we have a bunch of colorful comments in YouTube live chat right now. Colorful, literally and figuratively. One person says, "I don't think the orange mess will ever let his relationship with Elon slide. Trump is attracted to peeps with money and power and is jealous of Elon's enormous international influence." The real Zertex says, "If Truth Social merges with X, I'm selling all of my shares, computers, and I quit the internet." Wow. All right, Omar, what's your call on X merging with Truth Social? Jimmy's question.
Probably not going to happen because X is already a little bit of a dumpster fire financially. There are other investors besides Elon. They would have to approve an acquisition. And Truth Social is even worse financially than X. So it's probably unlikely that X investors and board would approve a merger just to, appease the president or something like that. But I suppose there is some possibility. He may have to diversify his holdings, so he could put it in a blind trust, or they could maybe sell the company or something. But I'm not sure what their plans are there. I rate it as unlikely.
Wait, when you say he may have to put in blind trust, you're talking about Trump because he's president now?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, I guess, Elon, to X could issue shares, right? He would dilute it on a little bit if cash is an issue here, but
I think what he did last time is just sort of say, hey, I'm putting my holdings, the kids are running the company or something. So there were a lot of people kind of raising issues with that, right? As president, you want to be disinterested in the sense that you're setting federal policy that's going to benefit all Americans rather than your personal holdings, which can get complicated when you have large business holdings. But there are ways to do it where you say, hey, this is just sort of in a blind trust. I'm not trading or anything. Or, I'm giving it to my kids to manage. I don't really understand all the legal details, but there are some sort of ethics laws there in terms of what you have to do.
What percent of Truth Social does Trump own, and how many, let's say, monthly active users do they have?
Good question. I don't know. Let me look it up.
Yeah, let's ask. If anybody knows in the audience, please request to speak. This is the benefit of live Tesla Live spaces. We have a lot of people with extreme knowledge in very specific areas in listener mode. And, this space is open every single day, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern. And I'm the host. I'm the only person who has to be here at all times. You don't have to be. You can kind of hop in anytime you want. Whatever topic you want to discuss, you're welcome to request to speak anytime you want. What percent of Truth Social does Trump own? As of November 2024, Donald Trump owns approximately 53% of Truth Media and Technology Group, the parent company of Truth Social. The stake comprises about 115 million shares. Earlier in the year, his ownership was reported to be around 57%. The slight decrease in the ownership percentage is likely due to changes in the company's share structure or the issuance of additional shares. Interesting. So he has control and he can sell it anytime he wants to Elon. I guess at what price is a question. Omar, did you find anything about how many monthly active users?
No, let's see.
Let's see if there's anybody in the YouTube live chat. As of November 2024, Truth Social has approximately 607,000 monthly active users. I mean, that's kind of drop in the bucket for X. So,
That can't be accurate. That's so low.
I mean, ChatGPT shows Wikipedia as the source.
I
Here.
mean, it could just be making things up, but you could check the Wikipedia article.
Okay.
Oh, 607,000 users. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's small. And so, I mean, a lot of those people are going to be MX anyway. So yeah, maybe it doesn't make sense to buy it. I mean, I don't know what happens to this company now that he's on. He's also on X now. I mean, he's tweeting more often on X. Anyway, all right. Any other questions on Trump Social, X? Any other comments? If not, we're going to switch topics. Go back to Tesla. The world's biggest battery maker says Elon Musk's 4680 cell is going to fail. Quote, is going to fail. The chairman of CATL is not a believer. Elon's cylindrical battery quest. Robin Zeng, the founder of the world's largest EV battery company, says Tesla's Elon Musk big bet on 4680 cylindrical cell technology, quote, is going to fail and never be successful, end quote. That is a hell of a claim. I mean, how do you say Elon Musk is never going to be successful? That is crazy comment. Coming from, however, not just anybody, the world's biggest battery producer, CATL, who is probably the biggest supplier to Tesla, right? Would you agree with that, Omar? They're probably in terms of value supplied per year, they're probably the biggest supplier to Tesla, right?
Absolutely. They're Tesla's number one supplier.
So, as a Tesla investor, what do you make of this comment? Does it kind of give you a pause, or do you write it off as it's a competitor in a way?
Well, first of all, I've got a car with 4680 cells. parked in front of my house. And I've been driving it since I think March, and there's been no problem with the batteries. It works just like any other Tesla battery. It's great. As a matter of fact, it supports 500 kilowatt charging with the new V4 cabinet, which I'm super excited to try. So I think they seem like great battery cells. They're working great for me. Now, if I were CATL and I was Tesla's biggest battery supplier selling them tons of LFP batteries, of course I would tell them, don't make your own LFP 4680s, don't make your own 4680s. This dry electrode thing is never going to work. And, I'm sure he has valid reasons why he's skeptical or why he says it won't work. But obviously, you want to convince them to buy from you rather than invest in trying to make LFP 4680s work. So, I mean, this is a guy who at every turn has proved people wrong. Every single business he ever started, people said, dude, what are you doing? I mean, even going back to Zip2 and PayPal, people were like, huh? What's the internet? When he started SpaceX, they're like, you're going to make a rocket? Elon, have you lost your mind? You're going to start a car company? Like, what chance does that have of becoming a major global brand? Are you nuts? So I wouldn't doubt him so easily. I think they are working on making LFP 4680s. I think that's going to power the Cybercab and the new, more affordable vehicles. It would absolutely be material to have an LFP cell made here in the United States that could qualify for the $45 a kilowatt hour, because of course LFP is lower cost than other cathodes that use nickel and cobalt and manganese and things like that. And it's just much more easily, the supply chain is just much more accessible. It's easy to make a lot more. So I think that's really what's happening here. CATL, you cannot buy a CATL battery in the United States anymore. There's now tariffs that make it too expensive. I think Tesla is increasingly going to be relying on their own battery manufacturing, and it's no surprise that their suppliers aren't happy with it and are trying to convince them to stay with CATL.
Any other questions, comments on the topic? Please request to speak. All right, so it doesn't kind of give you a pause. It doesn't, you're kind of saying Tesla would like to succeed. I mean, I guess maybe he's defining success as, I know batteries in your car, but Tesla has taken some time. It was supposed to be 100 gigawatt hours produced in 2022 per the battery day in 2020. And it's been 2 more years after that, and they're still not at that level. But you believe Tesla will get there eventually, profitably.
I mean, does it give me pause? I mean, we already know that batteries are ridiculously hard. We already knew that the chance of them replacing all their battery suppliers is basically zero, right? But it's something that makes sense to do, right? When you really talk about vertical integration, you talk about understanding your product from top to bottom. It's a really good initiative that they have. It is now enabling them to have a lower cost cell. They're saying it's actually beating out the best cells we can get from Panasonic and LG on cost. And then, of course, you've got that battery credit as well. So I think it is an initiative that's paid off. Obviously, it's at relatively small scale. They're selling millions of vehicles a year, and not even 100,000 of them have the 4680. So it's a drop in the bucket. They're going to continue buying from CATL, Panasonic, LG, and everybody else, BYD. But I think it makes sense to continue to invest in, to continue to experiment with, to be able to design chemistries that work great for the vehicles you want to build. You kind of just look at some things and you say, is this worth doing, right? Not everything's going to succeed the way you want it to. Not everything's going to change the business. But is this really worth investing in? Could it make the product better, lower cost? Could it make it more competitive? And I think the 4680s ultimately it's a yes on that. When you look at the Cybertruck, this really means being able to offer more range at a lower price, which directly speaks to Cybertruck's profitability and competitiveness. When you look at Ford and you look at the margins on that, and the fact that Ford is just losing more money than they can sell the truck for, and Tesla's able to sell it profitably, that 4680 cell being made internally is a big part of how that's possible.
Yeah. I mean, the CEO says Elon doesn't know how to make a battery. We had a very big debate, and I showed him. He was silent, whatever that means. And then he says, while Zhang wasn't impressed with Musk's battery knowledge, he thought it was good with chips, software, hardware, and mechanical things. This reminds me all the commentary that Tesla used to get from, what's that guy's name? Bob Lutz. Remember?
Yeah, the
Tesla should
GM
be
exec.
Tesla should be making the batteries and supply to Ford and GM. They can't make cars. So this guy's saying the exact opposite of that, and then we'll see how that works out for him. We have a new speaker, Spencer Wolf. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. I actually had a different topic, so I might have clicked the speaker too soon. So I can come back in a little bit if you want to talk about batteries some more.
What's the topic?
Well, it's about the approval for self-driving, and I know that some analysts are saying that we need to first get to 99.999% without intervention, but in California and Texas, is it possible that we're already at that high level and it's just an average over the country or wherever it might be that brings the average to not appear that way? And so when approvals are now, if the federal makes federal approvals easier, maybe that just is going to just make it easier to start in California, Texas, and then roll it out as the rest of the country improves.
Okay, Omar, what do you think? Is it possible that Tesla is already at 99.9999% reliability in Austin, San Francisco, and maybe Tesla starts out there, and then once you reach that level of reliability across the country, you get a federal approval from the Trump administration? Spencer, is that a good summary?
Exactly. Thank you.
Well, no. I mean, the thing can't even reverse yet for the public version. But, I mean, I think people need to stop worrying too much about how it's going to happen or whether it's going to happen. There are millions of driverless rides happening in the country right now. That's the reality we live in. FSD is going to be unsupervised without computer vision too. I know it's hard to believe. The regulatory process being updated to go nationwide is going to happen in parallel. That is completely unrelated to, when the software is ready to be unsupervised. So that's just a checklist item that greatly simplifies things. If we get this moved up to a national level, then we potentially don't have to just launch in California and Texas. We can actually much more easily scale to all 50 states. So we have a proof of concept of real driverless services in the wild. We know how to do this. These cars aren't perfect. Perfection's not required, but better than a human is what's required and what they've been able to deliver. That's what Tesla is going to have on the roads to true unsupervised driving anywhere you can think of in the city, certainly, maybe starting in a certain cities, but really anywhere in the country. And the regulatory thing can move on a separate track. They're not necessarily looking at what the performance of the system is right now. First, they just need to pass some legislation. By the time they actually pass the legislation and get this government organization set up, it's going to be time to start doing deployments.
All right.
Thank you.
Great, Spencer. Does that answer your
As a
question?
matter of fact, Tesla may end up having to do some deployments before this exists because, I mean, if they're talking about Q2, right? They're getting into office in January. Can they pass legislation through budget reconciliation and get this up and running that fast, it would probably take several months just to sort of get the approval process in place in NHTSA or whatever agency is handling this.
Thank you.
Spencer, anything else? Any other follow-ups?
No. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Give me 1 second. All here, okay? Okay, great. The YouTube, so we actually have a live poll right now on the YouTube channel about this topic. FSD miles between critical interventions, when will it exceed 1 million? I presented 4 options. We have 69 votes right now. Majority said 2026. 1 million miles between critical interventions, and critical defined as an accident. Okay, so accident or very certain, near certain accident, 1 million miles. Majority of the YouTube listeners think it's 2026. And then 29% says 2027. So between those two, by the end of 2027, 83% people say critical intervention, miles between critical intervention will exceed 1 million. That is an incredible statement. Omar, do you agree with that? Do you agree with the majority that by the end of 2026, miles between critical intervention will exceed 1 million? Omar? Yoda?
1 second.
Yoda, what do you think? Are we taking a break? Everyone going to the bathroom at the same time? What's going on here?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yoda.
I mean, I
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay. What's going on here? Amateur hour. Yoda, what do you think? When do you? Okay, let's go to Machine. Machine, what do you think? When do you think miles between critical interventions will exceed 1 million?
If you're saying across all users
US.
in the US, 2028. I think people are being very, very unrealistic in what they expect the rate of progress to be and continue to be. They're expecting essentially 100x each year from where we are now. And I do believe sometimes we will have some big jumps, but to get to that level, you're almost certainly asymptoting your rate of progress and what the model can do, just like most machine learning models, even deep learning models, hit upon when you get to really, really, really challenging areas. You're getting to the end here, and of the model performance and what it can do. This is not going from something that can barely operate on the road and now is really functional, kind of like a human. We're now getting into nitty gritty details. Will we even have the data available to train on and evaluate on when interventions are so infrequent at that point? Like, that's a big part. Once every 1 million miles, how long will it take to collect 1 million miles multiple times over to trust that you're at that level of integrity? It's hard.
Machine, in his usual negativity, but surprisingly supported by good logic today, says it's going to be 2028. Machine.
I mean, is it really negative, or is it just not stupid? Because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 years ago, I said around this time, maybe we'd be close to Robotaxi. And I believe you and your compatriot over there with the red Mars circle probably called me bearish. And now look, still haven't made it. So I think I'm just trying to be realistic.
Omar.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are just asking the wrong questions as usual. So you look at publicly available data for Waymo, they're running a driverless service, and their test fleet has an intervention every 19,800 miles. Their driverless fleet is at about 80,000 miles. So they're running a service and they're nowhere close to 1 million miles per intervention. I mean, it's going to be millions and millions of miles per intervention. But you're going to see driverless services, I think, launch in advance of that in cities. And when you talk about 80,000 miles, even 20,000 miles, right? The average car drives 12,000 miles a year. Even 19,000 miles in their test fleet, that's like what, once every year and a half, right? That you're having an intervention. For 80,000 miles, you're talking about, really several years before you see an intervention. Even if you say, let's say, for example, a driverless car drives 4 times more or something, you're still only talking about like one intervention a year, which can be handled remotely, right? So, obviously millions and millions is better. When you have billions of cars, that's probably the level you want to be at. But deployments are going to start in advance of that. And then, Machine said, oh, well, how long does it take to even get 1 million miles? Tesla's already got more than 1 million miles of driving every day. They've got millions of miles a day of driving. So you can validate at that level. You can say, okay, we had 3 million miles today. Um, you know, how many million miles per intervention? And believe me, it will get to millions and millions of miles. But the AI required to get to that level will be far more intelligent than what we have today.
Omar, just a quick question, clarifying question. So you said Waymo already is at 20,000 miles, but that's with human supervision.
Human safety, yeah.
On top of that, like exterior, like people sitting in call centers and intervening. So those interventions with the, like, do you think Tesla's going to go that route? Do you think when Tesla FSD gets to 20,000 or 30,000 or 100,000 miles between critical interventions, do you think there will be people like owners of Teslas that are intervening at all times, or do you think Tesla will wait until a higher level of reliability and safety to roll out robotaxis with no controls?
Yeah, so when we talk about 20,000 miles per intervention in the test fleet, that's really talking about human drivers behind the wheel. Most people don't realize that 75% of Waymo's miles traveled in California, as publicly reported, have a human behind the wheel. And they're testing new versions of the software, they're testing new capabilities, and they're able to intervene just like a Tesla driver would if the system's doing something incorrect. So sometimes they could even falsely intervene when they don't need to or something. But the way the regulation is, it still gets reported in the test data. So there's that, and they're seeing it about 20,000 miles. If Tesla was at 20,000 miles per intervention, even in a specific city, then you'd be seeing one intervention every few years, right? And the software would be improving so fast that at that point, that user will probably never see an intervention again, right? You see what I'm saying? Because they get so frequent, and then in the time it takes to have another one, the software is even getting better than that. So you reach kind of like an escape velocity. So it wouldn't be 100% perfect, right? But even Waymo sometimes bumps into other cars, bumps into other bicycles, bumps into poles. It's not common, but it can happen. The world moves on. They fix it, whatever. Nobody's gotten seriously hurt or killed, which is great. So, that I think, when you get to that level, it almost starts to feel like a robotaxi when there's only an intervention every couple of years. Then, if you get to 80,000, yeah, absolutely, you can start running deployments in cities that are remotely monitored. When you get into millions and millions of miles without an intervention, you probably don't even need remote monitoring at that point.
Machine, do you agree with that? Before I go to Yoga, Machine, when Tesla gets to 80,000 miles between critical interventions, and critical defined as accident or 99.99% reliability that it would be an accident if you didn't intervene, which Tesla has a really good way of predicting these things. At that point, Machine, do you think Tesla will roll out robotaxi service with human supervision outside of the car?
It's a good question. I think it's definitely possible. I think the main deciding factor for Tesla, which is different for Waymo, is purely financially driven, which is, can we manage this fleet with remote interventionists, whatever you would call them, and have the accident rate and costs of those accidents be such that they aren't causing us to lose money. And whereas Waymo, that threshold might, might be lower because they need to show progress for the robotaxis to get investors to give them more money. So they are willing to do that even if the insurance or accident costs actually cause them to lose a little bit of money in the medium to short term. So I think Tesla's got a little bit of a higher threshold to cross in terms of fidelity before they choose to do that. I don't know exactly what that level is.
Yoda.
Yeah, thanks. I just lost the plot on why we're trying to go after the 1 million miles per critical intervention threshold.
Better than human. It's got to be better than human, right?
Yeah,
Yoda?
I think I guess I don't see how Tesla is going to completely avoid accidents even at 1 million miles per critical intervention because the fleet size is so large, the miles per day is so large that there's still going to be accidents even at 1 million. So I think that isn't really the thing to try to avoid. Um, it's I think it's really down to kind of the per vehicle per owner level. So I think that number is actually much closer to maybe 100,000, whereby you can start to deploy uh, the service or the capability of unsupervised.
Omar.
Yeah, so NHTSA says the national average is 670,000 miles between accidents. So on average, you just take the number of accidents, you divide it by the number of miles, it's at about 670,000. So once we're at, let's say, 690,000, we can actually say that, on average, all across the country, this is safer. But when, you got to be careful about what you're looking at because this is a national average. This includes, highways where you may travel 5 miles in 5 minutes or less. And it also includes city centers. So what Waymo does to actually make their data a valid comparison is they say, well, let's look at the crash rate in cities versus the crash rate Waymo's seeing. Because if you looked at the crash rate Waymo's seeing compared to the national average, it actually looks like they're crashing more than once every 670,000 miles. But if you, according to them, look at how many crashes there were in San Francisco, then they're actually ahead of what humans are in San Francisco. So the national average is 670,000, but the urban average is significantly less than that. And maybe Waymo has some more details in their safety report documents. I forgot what the exact numbers are.
Okay, good point. Machine, any response to that point? Omar says you don't necessarily have to wait until 500,000 miles between accidents because in the cities, that number is much lower and Waymo may even be ahead of that number today.
Yeah, I think that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is that the accident costs in the city and also by an autonomous vehicle may not be as costly. And so I don't know if that's the case, but it's possible. And then that would also allow them to you'd start using it at a lower miles per intervention rate.
By the way, I hosted a Uber earnings watch party this weekend. So sometimes on the weekends, we do Tesla Live, impromptu watch party aired both on YouTube and on X at the same time. You can find these links on my profile or through the link at the top of our screens. I took some notes that I can share here if you're all interested. But we've tried to follow the companies that inform our view of Tesla, and Uber earnings have lots of data and insight into what a robotaxi business would look like. So I highly recommend people watch that. You can reach this video through the link at the top of our screens on the YouTube channel. Machine?
Is that what you're spending your time on the weekend now that your girlfriend dumped you?
Yeah, swing and a miss. But here are a couple of notes from Uber earnings Q3. Yeah, Ellie, go ahead.
I'm just wondering on this topic, what are the chances that 10,000 or 1,000 autonomous cars to crush one another? I mean, autonomous cars, one crush one to the other, and as long as we have drivers, humans, I mean, these odds, these statistics, these numbers might never come up, might never reach this kind of big numbers like million miles. That's just my take on it.
Omar?
Okay, so I went ahead and commented under the space with the data Waymo has. So they actually break it out into 3 categories: airbag deployment crash rates, any injury reported crash rates, and police reported crash rates. So in terms of airbag deployments, they had let's see, for our police reported crashes is their highest. They had 2.38 crashes per million miles. So that's essentially, less than 500,000 miles. So they're a little under the national average, but they say that the San Francisco average is actually 8 incidents per million miles. So, just over 100,000, which is, a tenth of the million figure we were discussing earlier.
All right, this picture is on your screens if you're watching this on YouTube, and on X, it's at the top of our screens. This data is coming from Waymo. Airbag deployment crash rates, any injury reported crash rates, police reported crash rates, and on the X-axis, Waymo shows it by city: San Francisco, Phoenix, separately, and also together as well. Yoda, any comments on this topic?
Omar, is this I don't know if there's a date on this report, but I assume when Waymo first started, the numbers would have been even worse.
Yeah, they only started publishing this recently. One thing that I think is interesting is the crash rate tends to be pretty similar across the cities in San Francisco, Phoenix. It's all 2.48 in Phoenix and San Francisco. Wait, sorry, those are just the combined two. So 2.52 in Phoenix, 2.38 in San Francisco, whereas for Phoenix it's 4.9, for San Francisco it's 8. So wildly different numbers on the human performance, but the software performance actually seems to be pretty similar between the two markets. Yeah, it's pretty interesting data, but it really shows you that the cities, first of all, it can vary wildly from city to city. San Francisco is almost double the number of crashes per mile as Phoenix, which makes sense given how small San Francisco is in terms of the streets. Everything's close together. But yeah, you really want to look at the market you're deploying in, what the intervention rate for the software is there compared to a human equivalent. And just the fact that there's 3 graphs here shows how difficult this is. How do you define a crash? Is a crash just anything where the car is touched, which is probably, police reported crashes, but a lot of humans don't report crashes to the police, right? So it gets underreported because, if it's a minor thing or maybe a hit and run or something. And then another definition is injury causing crashes. So if you want to look at it that way, most of the crashes that happen don't cause any injuries. So maybe you want to exclude those. You really want to look at serious crashes. And then in even fewer of those, the airbag deployed. So the airbag almost never deploys, meaning most of these crashes that do happen, they're very minor, they're very slow speed. So yeah, it's tough to get a comparison, right? So what is the number for humans? It is actually very complicated. What the data source is, what city you're in. it can vary widely from place to place.
Thanks so much. This is very valuable. And Omar and I had a deeper conversation about Waymo versus Tesla FSD. That's also on the YouTube channel, accessible through the link at the top of our screens. That's by far the most popular video on the channel. So I highly recommend people watch it. Clearly, people found some value on it. Very interesting topic. Omar, at the same time, though, I would push back and say a little bit, say that Waymo is losing about $1 billion a quarter. Google just had to throw in another $5 billion. And I don't know if Waymo is the boogie that we should be, is Tesla is aiming at before it starts its robotaxi service, right?
Waymo has not built a great business that I would want to invest in. But what they have shown is that it's possible to give millions of driverless car rides today. And the technology is getting better rapidly. So this is a great existence proof in the world. People are still in a state of disbelief trying to imagine an autonomous world. But we have 8 million driverless rides happening in the United States. Even though they're losing a lot of money doing it, that's material. And I think Tesla's got a cost structure to actually build a business out of this.
All right, great. I see we have Robert Scoble in listener mode. He's welcome to come up and say a couple of words about his visit with, I think he met Nvidia's CEO, or he's going to join AI Amateurs tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific, and we'll chat about his Nvidia experience. And I also have a small short position in Nvidia, so we can dig into a little bit more. Robert, welcome. How are you?
Doing great. That Saturday night was incredible. It was at the Computer History Museum, and it was their fellows celebration. They honored 3 founders of Atari who started the video game industry, and then Jensen was also honored and gave a talk, which I put up on X. But behind the scenes, I was meeting a whole bunch of people. Like I was sitting next to Joseph Smar, who's now working on the AI team at Shopify. And I met one of the founders of Mellanox, which is the company that NVIDIA bought. They make the fiber interconnects for the data centers. And he was showing me videos of the latest data centers. They're incredible. And I've been inside Facebook's data centers and other data centers around the world. And the amount of fiber that connects these things is insane. And NVIDIA has by far the leading company to do this. So that's where I was getting that. You might actually make some money this week if NVIDIA doesn't meet expectations, which are really high right now for every quarter. They need to show up with more sales, right?
Yeah.
But anyways,
we'll talk more about your visit. I want to learn everything, all the details, and kind of live vicariously through you. It sounds like a really fun event. I have a lot of questions about Jensen to you as well, so we can circle back tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific. Robert, will you be there?
Of course.
All right, perfect. That's great. Omar, will you be there as well? AI Amateurs tonight?
Yeah, I should be.
Okay, perfect. All right, back to Uber. We only have about 15 minutes left. So if any questions, comments, now is the time to do it. Back to Uber call. The top line is growing 20% year over year. 25 million Uber One members, up 70% year over year. Advertising revenue up 80% year over year. So advertising is growing really fast for Uber. They have a number of programs they rolled out. And this got quite a few questions on the earnings call as well. And there were 4 questions to Uber about autonomy on the earnings call, which I thought was really interesting from analysts, which I thought was really interesting. So in the watch party, accessible through the link at the top of our screens, we went through the earnings results first, did some financial statement analysis, and then listened to the earnings call together and took some notes, took some takeaways for Tesla investments. Uber's CEO singled out one aspect that is challenging them today, which is insurance costs, commercial insurance costs for their fleets. Uber passes on insurance cost increases and decreases to the customer. And obviously, as we know, insurance has been a primary driver of inflation in the United States in the last couple of years. And the CEO also mentioned that as the price goes up, demand elasticity kicks in. And in New Jersey and California, they're seeing slower growth because of the increase in commercial insurance that they're passing on to their customers. Omar, Tesla has a Tesla insurance, in-house Tesla insurance program. Do you think Tesla insurance could be a durable advantage, competitive advantage against Uber's fleet when Tesla rolls out its robotaxi network?
Well, Tesla insurance is too small right now. It's only in 12 states to really say it's going to offer them materially better insurance outcomes over Uber. But long term, running insurance in house and more to that autonomy is going to drive down insurance prices substantially. Right now, with car insurance, it's just this open ended risk, right? You're insuring the guy, you don't have any control over it, right? He's going to go out, he may crash it, he may not crash it. You don't even really know what the guy's like, right? Is he on drugs? Does he speed? You're really just kind of making a guess based on, like, okay, he's a 32-year-old male. So if you actually had the ability to use the software in the car to drive down the crash rates, that's going to lead to materially lower insurance costs for your rideshare over time.
Robert, what do you think about Tesla insurance potential competitive advantage 5, 10 years from today? I understand that it's only 12 states today, but there's potential for Tesla insurance to roll out across other states, across the United States, and even across the world maybe one day. Robert, do you think it's going to be a competitive advantage for Tesla when it's competing against Uber in the
Yes.
next 5, 10 years? Yeah.
Yes. So with autonomous cars, the crash rate, the accident rate is going to continue going down every year, and insurance is going to be, the cost of insurance is going to keep coming down, and so Tesla can underprice all other insurances that have to insure human-driven cars. Humans are actually getting worse at crashes over time because we're looking at our phones and being distracted and tired and all that. Autonomous cars get better and better over time. So I see I think Tesla insurance is under focused on part of Tesla's piece, but as we move to transportation as a service, it's going to be wrapped into the cost of taking a car or a Cybertruck to the airport or whatever.
Omar?
Yeah, I think some of what we're going to see here is actually happening before unsupervised. Obviously, we've got features like automatic emergency braking, obstacle aware acceleration. These features are already helping prevent crashes today. They're going to get more and more advanced. That level of savings is going to get more and more. Tesla insurance provides an opportunity to kind of monetize that. So I think this is actually going to become an important selling point in the next couple of years. As the Cybercab comes out, not only is the Cybercab going to be $25,000, but you don't have to buy insurance for it because the insurance is going to be included with FSD unsupervised. So rather than paying $100 or $200 a month for insurance, you'll just pay for FSD or pay for an FSD subscription. And that'll include the cost of insuring it, which will be much lower than traditional human driven insurance. So in the coming years, especially as insurance gets more expensive, I don't know if that trend will continue, but certainly it's stinking consumers' wallets today. It'll be great to say, hey, why don't you just buy a car without a steering wheel that doesn't require you to insure it at all?
Great. That's a great discussion on Tesla insurance and its potential down the line. There was one more key. I mean, there was a lot of key takeaways from this call, so I highly recommend people watch it. But Omar, you're gonna like this one. An analyst asked if this service, Waymo service on Uber, is so successful and people are rating it high, and you're getting a lot of rides and everything. Why is it only in Austin and Atlanta? why only 2 cities? And the CEO said, because they have to map the cities. Essentially, you get a longer
Well,
answer.
that's
So,
honestly only a partial answer.
yeah. What do you think is the other part?
Well, they need to map the city, certainly, but honestly, that's the easy part, right? So you build a map, they know how to build a map. But then you've also got to have administrative staff in the city. You've got to set up charging locations for those cars. You got to set up depots where service is going to be performed. You need to have 2 guys in a van following each car, along with 1 guy in the call center who can handle the car. So there's really a ton of work that needs to be done, and that's why they've partnered with Uber. This Uber partnership it makes me laugh because they're trying to make it like there's some leader in autonomy partnering with Waymo, but the deal is essentially to wash Waymo's cars. Like, this is your business of the future. You're gonna, wash the autonomous cars. And Waymo's like, man, we don't want to set up these infrastructure operations, right? Managing the cars, charging the cars, washing the cars, fixing the cars, sending someone out to get the cars. We're burning cash. And that means we can't expand into as many cities because the fixed investment to launch in each of these cities is accelerating our burn. So that's why we're handing off some of this burn to Uber in exchange for them being the exclusive rideshare provider. They're like, screw it. We don't even have to use our app. Let's just bake it into Uber, in exchange for them sort of taking some of this burn and getting some of the good press. But really, it's not only the mapping. The mapping is part of the fixed cost, but it's all of the fixed infrastructure required to run a service in that city, as well as dealing with government permitting, all of that.
All right. Thank you, Omar. Okay. Anything else we're going to discuss? Anything else we're going to discuss today in Tesla Live? We have AI amateurs tonight, so I don't want to. Some of our Yoda, are you going to be there tonight?
Yeah, I'm gonna try. Just a quick comment. I
Yeah.
think Uber is trying to get rid of the driver, the human driver, by partnering with Waymo. Waymo's trying to get rid of the human fleet manager, car washer. The root of the problem is neither are able to solve autonomy, right? To handle these tasks. And so I think this is where Tesla is advantage here, right? It's sort of solving similar to Waymo, arguably similar to Waymo, trying to put the human driver to bed, but then it's also going to be able to come up with solutions to charge and clean the vehicles through the robot arms and the charging, the wireless charging network. And so, yeah, I think this is why I think Uber and Waymo partnership is struggling.
Yeah, and Yoda, to your point, we have 3 more hands and a couple of people to think. But to your point, Uber CEO also mentioned that in San Francisco, Waymo is supplying Uber, putting cars on Uber network, and also competing with Uber at the same time in the city. So that's a hell of a friction in that partnership. But before I go to Omar, True to a T, thank you very much for the $10 super chat. True to a T says turkey fund for Machine's mom Thanksgiving dinner, and Crunch the Grace Hopper $5 super chat. Thank you very much, everybody, for keeping this Tesla Live space open and free for everyone on X with your support. Omar, then Robert, then Marcel, and then we're going to call it a day.
Yeah, so one of the things that, we touched on a little bit, but maybe we could dig deeper into at some point, maybe tomorrow, is just, the federal legislation for autonomous driving and what that means. I think it really plays to Tesla's strengths potentially if there's a regulatory framework that doesn't require you to go state by state. Tesla today just dominates in automated road trips, right? So if you want to take a road trip from city to city, Waymo, the others, they don't do that. They can't, right? So Tesla's your only option. It's the best option. I think they've got that market cornered, and yeah, this is exciting for a lot of reasons. But a lot's been said about that already. The other thing that I think was kind of interesting is we've seen kind of Elon coming out and confirming a little bit through some replies here on X this weekend that Tesla is working on a larger Tesla vehicle for large families. And there was some kind of speculation about what that could be. I was saying, hey, take the Cybertruck platform and make it a cyber SUV. But then I heard from some people, no, it's not quite going to be a cyber SUV, but they are working on a larger SUV that's bigger than the Model X. And they're also thinking about making multiple sizes of the Opel Model Y. And what that would mean exactly, I'm not sure, but maybe like a longer wheelbase version for China, maybe a longer version that can accommodate a third row that's not as squished. That could be definitely, I think, a sell up for them. Push people towards maybe that third row version if it was, a little bit longer and had a little bit of extra room. So kind of interesting that he's, replying to people. I don't want to get too crazy speculating, but I think this is definitely an area in their product lineup where a lot of people have said, "Hey, I need this." Right? As a matter of fact, my cousin had a Model Y, and they got 3 kids now, and they said, 3 car seats in the back of the Model Y, it's just not really enough room. So we actually have to get a bigger three-row SUV. And Model X was like, Model X is not really what we want either for some reason. It didn't really quite work for them, the doors. They were like, okay, well, we just want something simpler. But they were like, I hate that we had to get rid of our Tesla. We miss our Tesla, but it's just the reality of our family. We got these 3 kids. So um, I think this would be really exciting. I think Rivian has really had a lot of success with the R1S because this market was so much more sparse. Now you've got Kia and others entering the market, but I think a Tesla entrant in this space would be really well received, and especially since Elon's telling everyone to have kids, a big Tesla vehicle, not like a robo-van size, but just a bigger SUV, I think could be pretty exciting.
Thank you, Robert. Then Marcel.
Back to Uber, they do have several advantages at Uber that Tesla is going to have to build. For instance, if you go to the music festival Coachella, Uber causes 3,000 cars to be driven from the Western United States down to Palm Springs to drive 100,000 people or 150,000 people at the music festival around. And they built their own parking lot there with a waiting area. It's a huge parking lot that can handle hundreds of cars per hour going through the parking lot and picking people up and all that. That's something that Tesla is going to have to build, and they're going to have to build the ability for the cars to be moved down to Coachella, right, so that they can pick up cars like that. So I get why Uber and Waymo are working together, because Uber still has a lot of advantages here. They have the air traffic control system to move the cars around. They have the infrastructure. They have the brand. They have the apps on everybody's phones. They have love around the world for the for an Uber car company, and Tesla's going to have to compete with all of that. Anyways, it's good talk.
Robert, great points. We actually went over some of the things that you mentioned in the Uber earnings watch party, and also more. I think listen to that watch party. Just Uber is an impressive company. There's no question about it. It's an impressive company, and they built a great business. And they're not profitable as well. They generated more than $1 billion in operating income in the quarter. The company is worth about $150 billion. They raised some cash. They issued some debt to buy back shares. We went into all of these one by one, and that just increased my appreciation of the company a little bit more. So I highly recommend people watch it because they will inform your understanding of the future, including Tesla, if you pay attention to these watch parties that we host on the YouTube channel periodically. Weekly at this point. All right, let's go to Marcel. Marcel?
Yeah, I was just wondering, since you guys were talking about Tesla insurance and then also the legislation or potential legislation for helping FSD be approved nationwide, if there's any way that some legislation could be passed federally to help with the adoption of Tesla insurance in more states? Because I've looked at the map, and it's like honestly really disappointing, like how few states there are that have Tesla insurance. And so I don't really know what the limiting factor is there. I'm not sure if that's possible, but I was just curious.
Mark.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. It might be possible to create some legislation that would allow you to have a national auto insurer. But I haven't really heard anyone talking about that. So, there are insurance companies that operate nationally. They just certify with all 50 states separately. Autos have always just been handled at the state level. It's always been seen as a state issue. So, we don't want to move too much up to the federal level. I think sort of local registration of autonomous cars will still be handled by the state DMV, et cetera. But I think you kind of want to have a NHTSA-like body that can certify on a technical level that the autonomy is powerful, because that the autonomy is ready, because the states aren't really well equipped to do that. So that, I think, really makes sense. Maybe insurance, it actually makes sense to have something there too. But I haven't really heard anyone discuss that at this point. And also, I'll just echo that Uber's an incredible business and very EV friendly, very Tesla friendly, and the CEO actually drives a Model Y.
Awesome. I'm going to end with a note from Hollis and Mika, who is a great supporter of the space. I posted this on YouTube on your screens as well. She says, "This space is so great. The whole world is positively touched by Tesla. They will find this space to be the touchstone for a beautiful future and present." And with that, thank you very much, everybody. I'll chat with you all in AI Amateurs, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific. Take care.